Phew, the situation around Teyana Taylor has taken a sharp turn, and it's not pretty. Word on the street is that after her brief romance with Aaron Pierre fell apart, Iman Shumpert has been sitting back and enjoying the chaos a little too much. That fairytale Mufasa moment? Gone almost as quickly as it arrived, barely a year in, and it completely unraveled. What makes it sting even more is the rumor that Aaron didn't just walk away, but sprinted right back to his former white girlfriend, leaving Teyana to deal with the fallout in full public view. And instead of things quietly fading out, the breakup has spiraled into something far more humiliating, with every move dissected and amplified online. But here's where it gets especially uncomfortable. While Teyana is navigating embarrassment and heartbreak, Iman is allegedly thriving off it. After initially losing it over her moving on in the first place, insiders claim he's now flipping the script, mocking her situation, throwing subtle, and not so subtle, shade, and acting like he's won some twisted victory lap. Apparently, he's even been bragging behind the scenes, saying cruel things about how no one would ever truly want Teyana because she's a single mother, suggesting no man would take her seriously. It's not just petty, it's downright nasty. And coming from someone who once couldn't stand the idea of her finding happiness elsewhere, it feels less like confidence and more like resentment dressed up as jokes. So now the real question is hanging in the air: is Teyana going to ignore the noise and protect her peace, or is she gearing up to respond, directly or indirectly, to the disrespect? Because at this point, this isn't just a breakup story anymore. It's turning into a public power struggle, and everyone's watching to see who blinks first. Honestly, it's not shocking that people would stoop that low and start throwing cruel narratives at her. What really makes the situation hurt more is that fans are now saying they saw this coming from the very beginning, and they tried to warn Teyana. From their perspective, Aaron Pierre's Mufasa era didn't just come with career momentum, it came with a carefully timed relationship that may have benefited him far more than it did her. Yes, landing a major role like Mufasa definitely raised his profile, but pairing that rise with a highly visible romance? That's a whole different level of exposure, especially when the woman involved is someone as admired and talked about as Teyana. From day one, the imbalance was hard to ignore. She seemed all in. She was the first to post him, the first to publicly acknowledge the relationship, and the one doing most of the emotional heavy lifting. People couldn't help but notice how much more invested she appeared compared to him. And it didn't stop there. While speculation online started bubbling about whether this was just a strategic, publicity-friendly relationship, Teyana shut that down quickly. She insisted it was real, spoke about being shy and giddy when his name came up, and tried to frame it as something genuine and deeply felt. Meanwhile, on Aaron's end? Silence. No confirmations. No affectionate shoutouts. Just quiet. Of course, the internet did what it always does, started digging. And that's when rumors resurfaced about his longtime white ex still being very much in the picture. Some people even believe there was never a clean break at all, that she remained part of his life the entire time he was allegedly dating Teyana. If that's true, it raises an uncomfortable question: why involve Teyana at all? According to online chatter, this move wasn't unprecedented. People compared it to past situations where rising male stars faced backlash for only dating white women while having a largely black female fanbase. Aaron, like others before him, was breaking into the American market, where perception matters almost as much as talent. And with black women making up a significant portion of his supporters, being seen as only dating white women could have hurt his image. Enter Teyana, beautiful, respected, and undeniably high profile. The woman believed to be his actual long-term partner is Hannah Hurst. From what's been pieced together, their relationship was serious. Just weeks before Aaron and Teyana went public, he and Hannah were still appearing solid, attending a wedding together, looking comfortable, connected, and very much like a real couple. Let's be honest, you don't bring someone as your date to a wedding if things are casual. That's a statement, whether spoken or not. They looked so natural together that some people even joked they were the ones getting married. That rumor didn't last long, but insiders later confirmed that Hannah was indeed his girlfriend when his career first started gaining traction back in 2021. As his fame grew, her account reportedly went private. And just weeks before his public moment with Teyana, Hannah posted a throwback photo of the two of them, with a caption that read, "My person." Then came another twist, one that truly shook things up. Aaron soft-launched his child online, posting a photo holding his son's hand with a simple caption, "Son." The shocking part? According to multiple sources, Teyana allegedly had no idea he even had a child while they were together. What makes that revelation even heavier is the uncertainty around how she found out. Some believe she discovered it the same way everyone else did, scrolling online, unsuspecting, piecing things together in real time. Others say it was far more personal, far more painful, and that she only learned the truth after she was already emotionally invested. And that detail changes everything. There's a massive difference between knowingly entering a complicated situation and being unknowingly placed in one. One is a choice. The other is a blindside. And if the latter is true, then this wasn't just a messy breakup, it was a setup that unraveled long after feelings were already involved. And then came the moment everyone had been quietly circling around, the detail people were afraid to say out loud but couldn't stop thinking about. Screens were paused. Captions were reread. Timelines were stitched together piece by piece. One question echoed everywhere at once: so, who's the mother of the child? That's when the name started surfacing. Hannah. Yes, that Hannah. And if anyone thought that revelation was the end of the awkwardness, they were sadly mistaken. Because almost immediately, another question followed right behind it, just as loud and just as unavoidable. Who did Aaron allegedly run back to once things ended with Teyana? Once again, the answer was the same. Hannah. Same woman. Same unresolved connection. Same unfinished business. At that point, the story stopped looking like a simple breakup and started feeling like a loop no one consented to be part of. Insiders didn't just stop at confirming the connection either. They went further, revealing that Hannah isn't only pregnant, but pregnant with baby number 2. 2 children. And when those photos began circulating online, the ones people zoomed in on like detectives, it became painfully clear that this wasn't a distant future situation. Aaron is reportedly on the brink of becoming a father again, any day now. That's when the conversations really heated up. Because behind the scenes, in whispered messages and non-stop group chats, people started saying this pregnancy was the real reason everything with Teyana suddenly came to an end. Not because love fizzled out. Not because of incompatibility. But because reality showed up uninvited, demanding attention and responsibility. The talk is that Aaron wanted to finally make things right with Hannah, commit for real, solidify the family unit, and stop juggling overlapping narratives that were destined to crash into each other eventually. What complicates things further is that while his personal life was unraveling, his career was quietly advancing. Since being linked to Teyana, his professional opportunities reportedly multiplied. He was booking roles, gaining visibility, moving differently in the industry. From a public relations standpoint, the optics worked. The pairing looked polished. It made sense on paper. For a while, it did exactly what it needed to do. Unfortunately, that same situation didn't benefit Teyana in the slightest. Reports suggest she was completely caught off guard by the breakup. No gradual distancing. No honest conversation. Just a sudden ending that left her reeling. One day she believed things were solid, moving forward, growing into something meaningful. The next, she realized she had been standing on ground that wasn't stable at all. From the outside, it truly appeared that she thought this relationship had longevity. She wasn't acting like someone bracing for an ending. She was moving like someone investing, emotionally, publicly, sincerely. So to be dropped without clarity is already devastating. But having to endure that pain while it unfolds in front of the entire world? That's a different level of hurt altogether. And as if that weren't enough, she then had to deal with non-stop mockery, noise that never lets up, commentary that feels intentionally cruel, and people delighting in her discomfort. There was no grace period. No space to process privately. Everything became spectacle. Let's be real, once the breakup news surfaced, nobody was surprised about who jumped into the chaos next. Everyone knew Iman wouldn't stay quiet. The temptation was too strong, the timing too perfect. And sure enough, the shade came, sometimes subtle, sometimes loud, sometimes unmistakable. He made sure his presence was felt. At its core, this entire situation reads like a cautionary tale about unclear intentions and poor communication. About how easily someone can believe they're building something real, only to realize later they were merely a temporary stop in someone else's unfinished journey. That realization cuts deepest when you watch the person who hurt you attempt to reconstruct a life that no longer includes you, almost seamlessly. What makes it even more painful is how little care seems to have gone into the ending. There's no evidence that Teyana was offered honesty, closure, or even basic respect. Instead, she was left assembling the truth through rumors, leaked information, and public speculation. And no matter how strong someone appears, that kind of emotional whiplash leaves scars. It forces you to question every moment, every conversation, every promise, wondering what was genuine and what was simply convenient at the time. And that's the hardest part of all, realizing the signs may have always been there, but love made them easier to overlook. Meanwhile, Aaron seems to be moving like someone in a rush, like he's trying to sweep everything into order before the consequences get any heavier. Settling down. Tightening loose ends. Recasting himself as the man choosing responsibility now that real-life stakes are impossible to ignore. But the thing about public timelines is that they don't disappear. People remember who was hurt, when it happened, and how quietly it was handled. No amount of cleanup or image repair can undo the emotional wreckage left in the process. And now Hannah finds herself right in the middle of it all, whether she intended to be there or not. Pregnant again, stepping back into a relationship layered with history, unresolved tension, and public scrutiny. People can debate endlessly about whether this reunion is driven by love, obligation, or damage control, but only the people living it understand the weight they're carrying. Trying to build a family when trust has already been tested in front of an audience is no small task. Then there's Teyana, left to pick herself up amid non-stop noise, unsolicited opinions, and cruel commentary. She isn't just processing a breakup, she's coming to terms with the possibility that she was never the destination, only a temporary stop along someone else's unfinished path. That kind of realization cuts deep. It doesn't fade quickly. It alters how you open your heart again, how you trust, and how guarded you become moving forward. When you strip it all down, this situation highlights a truth people often overlook: timing, honesty, and accountability matter. You can't create something real while hiding parts of the truth. Eventually, everything surfaces, and when it does, someone always pays the price. In this case, the fallout was loud, public, and unforgiving. While some walk away with fresh starts, others are left sorting through the debris of something they believed was genuine, wondering how it all collapsed so fast. Now, let's talk about Iman, because from the very beginning, his resentment wasn't subtle. There was no quiet bitterness, no attempt to mask his feelings. It was loud. It was visible. And it felt deeply personal. The moment Teyana went public with her new chapter, the shift was immediate. The smiles vanished. The restraint disappeared. Everything turned into a power struggle. People who were paying attention noticed how quickly things escalated. Almost overnight, the divorce process became unnecessarily tense and uncomfortable. And it didn't feel like emotional lashing out, it felt deliberate. Strategic. Like someone trying to control the story rather than heal from the situation. Teyana herself later spoke on how strange narratives suddenly began popping up online. Stories claiming she had drained him financially. Stories painting her as greedy, ruthless, and opportunistic. And once those rumors hit the blogs, they spread fast, screenshotted, reposted, exaggerated until speculation started being treated as fact. What made it worse were whispers that these stories weren't organic at all, but allegedly planted and paid for. That's when she realized this wasn't just resentment anymore, it was a calculated effort to damage her image. As more articles surfaced, many conveniently sourced from people close to Iman, the tone shifted from divorce to character assassination. The narrative tried to frame her as a gold digger, someone who allegedly went after his NBA earnings out of spite. But Teyana shut that down immediately. She made it clear, publicly, that everything she received was legally hers, approved through proper channels, and agreed upon in court. Nothing shady. Nothing stolen. Things reached another level when she requested the court hold him in contempt. That move alone signaled how serious the behind-the-scenes situation had become. She even asked for jail time over leaked settlement details, which shocked the public. Later, she admitted that request came from frustration, not vengeance. She didn't actually want him locked up, she wanted the leaks to stop. And on that point, she never wavered. She stood firm that private information was being intentionally released to harm her reputation. Then came the detail that added a whole new layer to the drama. According to Teyana, what really fueled Iman's behavior wasn't money or unresolved divorce issues, it was jealousy. She suggested that seeing her move on, especially with Aaron, triggered him. And when you line up the timeline, the claim doesn't sound far-fetched. The leaks intensified. The hostility grew louder. Everything escalated once her new relationship became public. That's when the situation shifted from messy to blatantly petty. So yes, his bitterness toward her relationships didn't start yesterday, but what truly caught people's attention was his reaction after news broke that Teyana had been dumped. The post he shared didn't bother hiding the satisfaction. It wasn't outright celebration, but it came close enough to make people uncomfortable. The timing. The tone. The subtle jabs wrapped in passive wording, it all suggested he was enjoying the moment just a little too much. And people noticed. Quickly. Because no matter how things ended between them, Teyana is still human. She's still dealing with heartbreak, public embarrassment, and a situation she didn't create on her own. And kicking someone while they're already down? That says more about the person doing it than the one being targeted. But this is where things take another turn, because word on the street is that Teyana may not be ready to fully release Aaron just yet. Not emotionally. Not mentally. And definitely not quietly. People have been paying close attention to her behavior, and one detail keeps standing out: she's still very much present in his digital space. Liking posts. Staying engaged. Not moving like someone who's closed the door for good. And in today's world, social media isn't just casual, it's communication. Silence can be loud, but consistency speaks just as clearly. Her continued interaction tells people she hasn't detached. If anything, it suggests she still believes in something worth holding on to, maybe even worth fighting for. Honestly, that wouldn't be out of character for her at all. Teyana has never been the type to fade into the background or retreat just to make things easier for everyone else. She's always been resilient, assertive, and unafraid to stand her ground. So when people say she's the kind of woman who will stand 10 toes down for her relationship, it doesn't sound exaggerated, it sounds on brand. Which means Iman might want to tread lightly, because there's a real chance the narrative could flip faster than he expects. This chapter clearly isn't finished. Right now, the story being pushed is simple and brutal. Teyana got played, got left, and now she's stuck enduring Iman stirring the pot all over again. On top of that, there are rumors that Aaron has gone running back to his child's mother, Hannah. Allegedly, she's pregnant. Allegedly, there are receipts. Allegedly, the timeline is chaotic. And the public embarrassment? It's unfolding in real time, people choosing sides, resurfacing old posts, dissecting every move like it's evidence in a trial. But here's what a lot of people are missing: Teyana isn't retreating. She's not disappearing from the spotlight. She's not scrubbing her socials or suffering in silence. She's still visible. Still watching. Still fully aware of how the situation is playing out. And that alone should make people pause. Because when someone like her stops observing and starts responding, things tend to shift, fast and unexpectedly. If she decides to speak her truth, move strategically, or expose details that haven't yet surfaced, this situation could escalate far beyond where it is now. There are clearly layers the public hasn't seen: private conversations, unresolved emotions, and behind-the-scenes decisions that haven't come to light. Everyone involved is acting like the book has closed, but the energy says otherwise. It feels unfinished. And unfinished business always finds its way back to the surface. At its core, this isn't just about a breakup, a divorce, or a rebound gone wrong. It's about pride, ego, control, and image, wrapped tightly in fame and public perception. People want a clean ending, but this story doesn't feel ready to conclude. Because when emotions collide with visibility, money, and audience opinion, there's always another moment waiting to happen. And while Iman may be enjoying the disorder as everything around him spirals, one thing is undeniable: this love triangle isn't done telling its story. Not even close. And if there's one thing we know for sure, it's that the internet isn't going to let this one fade quietly.